I recently made a video about the Lenovo Legion Y700 in which I said it was the best 8-inch Android tablet in the world. Well, that reign might be over. That's right, we've got a brand new contender here today in the new Lenovo Legion Y700. Lenovo's basically just competing with themselves at this point. But is the new Y700 worth upgrading to over the 2023 model? Well, we're gonna find out right now. What's up, my dude? Your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and welcome back to the Spare Tech Room, where I try to help you make better tech choices. And if you want the TLDR, the new Y700 is slightly more powerful, but with one glaring flaw that might ruin the whole thing for you. But we'll get into that in just a bit. First, let's look around the devices and talk about their physical differences. Then we'll do a bunch of testing, and I'll come back here to wrap the whole thing up for you. All right. To the top-down camera. All right, so here we are with the Lenovo Legion Y700 2023 version on the left-hand side here, and the 2024, or what I've also seen it listed as 2025 model of the Y700 on the right. And the first thing I want to tell you here is that these things are absolute fingerprint magnets. Of course, the screen is a fingerprint magnet, but the back covers as well, especially on the new version with its darker color. It's impossible to not have smudges and fingerprints all over this thing the moment you pick it up. But of course, I think we're all going to end up putting these in cases and putting screen protectors on them. And if you don't, you absolutely should. That should be the first thing you buy when you pick up either one of these. I'll go ahead and link to a really good case and screen protector that I recommend in the description box below if you want to check those out. But okay, let's go ahead and knock off some of the stats, the physical stats about these. As you can tell, they are very similar looking. They both have 8.8-inch IPS screens and are listed at weighing 350 grams, although I weighed the 2023 model in at 246 and the newer version at 248. But either way, around 350 grams. You're not going to notice a couple gram difference. The screen resolution for each of them is exactly the same at 2560 by 1600. Both of them cap out at about 500 nits of brightness, have Dolby Vision, and fully laminated displays, so you're getting really good picture quality across the board. Now, one of the differences I'll show you in their settings has to do with the displays and the frame rate. The 2023 model has a few options here: 60 Hz, 120, and 144 Hz. However, the new model goes up to 165 Hz. You will notice the menu's a little bit different here. So you have the option of setting it at 60 Hz or 165. No 120 Hz option, no middle ground on the new one. Just simply 60 Hz or maxed out at 165. And that could be an issue for gaming when you have games that natively run at 60 frames per second and maybe you want to run them at 120. You don't have that option with the new model. Both tablets have a Snapdragon processor. The 2023 model has the 8 Gen 1, or rather it's the 8 Plus Gen 1, and the new model has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. And we'll get into what the real world differences are between those two chips as we get into our testing later on. They both come in two different versions. There's the base model, which has 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigabyte hard drive, and the upgraded version that comes with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigabyte hard drive. Now, generally, I wouldn't recommend going with the larger hard drive. You typically don't need that. However, with the new model, you do not have a micro SD card slot. I have searched all around it. There is no micro SD card slot at all. So the storage that you purchase at the beginning is the storage that you get. So if you are going to go with the newer version, you might want to consider upgrading to the 512 gigabyte hard drive. Otherwise, with the 2023 model, you can go with either, and you have the ability to add up to 1 terabyte of a micro SD card for additional storage. They both have fast charging capability up to 45 watts. However, they do come with a 68 watt charger. So that's just a nice little bonus that you get with either unit. The battery is the same on both, 6550 milliamps. However, of course, since they do have different processors, we'll have to test the battery drainage to see if you're getting better performance with one or the other. Back on the rear, you have dual cameras on either of them, and what you're probably noticing here is there are already smudges and fingerprints all over the new model. There are some on the old one as well, but you're probably not seeing them as well, but that's just from me flipping these over. They both have stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos on either side of the device, dual USB ports on the long side and one on the short side, which are 3.1 Gen 2 ports, and neither has a headphone jack. That actually went away with the 2023 2023 model and has not returned. But since you have those dual USB ports, you might want to use one for headphones. They are both running Lenovo's ZUI16 with Android 14. The 2023 model recently had an upgrade to Android 14. I don't imagine it will be getting any upgrades beyond that. And as far as pricing is concerned, you can pick up the 2023 model for about $350 USD and the new version for about $500, although I have seen them both available on AliExpress for around $50 less than that. I'll go ahead and link to the best deals that I found on both tablets in the description box below if you want to check them out there. It's a great way to save some money. Okay, so let's check out some benchmarks and then we will jump into some gameplay performance so that way you can see how these things perform. Okay, the first thing I want to show you here, because I had noticed some differences when I was downloading different applications, is an internet speed test. Now, I don't have the best internet here in my home, but I did run a test with these both side by side, and these are the differences that I got. It was a bit shocking, but the 2023 version definitely consistently got faster download and upload speeds over the new 2024-2025 version. It looked like on average you were getting about a 30% increase in download speed, which is pretty significant, especially when it comes to downloading games or apps or streaming games over the network. I also ran some benchmarks here. We have the Antutu benchmark, which is going to show you all kinds of performance across your CPU, GPU, memory, etc. And the difference you're getting here is around 1.3 million for the 2023 model and 1.9 million for the new version, the 2025. I have seen some people get higher scores with the 2025 Y700, but this is what I was getting pretty consistently. Then I went ahead and ran some Geekbench 6 benchmarks. We've got the CPU benchmark here showing 1858 single core and 4730 multi-core on the 2023 model, and 2148 single core and 6809 multi-core on the 2025. Our OpenCL score for the GPU on the 2023 model was 5874 and 15205 for the 2025 model. We also ran Vulkan, which was showing 6597 on the 2023 model and 1678 on the new version. Then of course we ran Wildlife Extreme on the 2023 version. We were getting 2824 as an overall score with an average frame rate of 16.91 and 4452 overall score on the 2025 Y700 with an average frame rate of 26.66. So some pretty significant jumps in performance as far as synthetic benchmarks are concerned. But how does this actually reflect when it comes to gameplay? Well, let's go ahead and fire up some emulators and I'll show you some of the differences that we get in performance when it comes to things like GameCube, PlayStation 2, and maybe even a little Nintendo Switch. Okay, and here we are running the Dolphin emulator. I'm just gonna fire up a game here. We've got F-Zero GX, which is one of the more difficult games to run, and this is running currently at 6x, 6 times native resolution, which is pretty much maxed out, and I'm running it with OpenGL. And when we launch into a game here, you're gonna notice that we're sticking pretty much at 60 frames per second the entire time. It does dip down a couple frames here and there, but for the most part, we're pretty consistently at 60 frames per second. Again, maxed out at 6x. And this is on the 2023 Lenovo Legion Y700. The 2025 version is going to maybe be a little more consistent, but not by enough, I feel, to make much of a difference. And of course, you can't take the Dolphin emulator up any further than 6x. So this is all the power you're going to need for GameCube, at least for F-Zero GX. Now we'll fire up Star Wars Rogue Squadron, which is another very difficult game to run on the Dolphin emulator. And we'll see what kind of frames we're getting with that. And here we are playing Star Wars Rogue Squadron on the Dolphin emulator at 6 times native resolution. And this is one of the most difficult games, if not the most difficult game to run on this emulator. And it seems to be no real problem for the 2023 Y700. Of course, the 2025 version is going to give you the same results here. So no need to step up the resolution any further. In fact, it won't go any further than it currently is. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the PS2 and take a look at some more difficult games to run on that. All right, and we've got God of War 2 running here again in OpenGL. This is at 4x resolution, and we are getting a pretty consistent 60 frames per second. It dips down a little bit here and there, but nothing significant. I would say though 4x is about the limit for this particular game. If you took it down to 3x, that would be even better, but this is entirely playable. There's hardly any slowdown whatsoever, at least none that I can perceive. So let's go ahead and fire up another game here to see what else we can do on the PlayStation 2. And here we've got Champions of Norath. I should also mention, if you are liking the controller that I have attached to this tablet, this is one of, if not the best telescopic controller that you can get for a tablet of this size. It is the Absolute S9. I picked it up on Kickstarter when they had their Kickstarter campaign going, but you can currently grab it on Amazon. I'll link to it in the description box below. You've got the white version as well as a black version, and they are both phenomenal. You've got Hall sensor sticks and just really solid controls and everything. So I'll link to that if you want to check it out. If you want me to do a full review of it, let me know that in the comments as well. But let's go ahead and just load a state here so that way you can see the gameplay. And again, this is running at 4x native resolution. I've also never played this game, but it seems to be going really well. It hasn't dipped at all below 60 frames per second. So Champions of Norath, one of the more difficult games to run, 4x resolution, no problem at all. Now, I did also test out some Switch games on this, although I'm not going to show you any of that because I'm afraid of Nintendo and I don't want them to come and kill my dog or something. But Switch games are going to be kind of hit and miss. Any of the 2D games should run just fine. Some of the lower level 3D games run well enough, but for anything beyond that, some of the high level Switch 3D games, this really isn't going to be the best way to play those. For that, you're honestly just going to want to stick to a Switch or to play them on your PC. And as far as the differences that I've seen between this 2023 version of the tablet and the 2025 version, it is very negligible. So much so that, for example, with the PlayStation 2 playing at 4x, you wouldn't really be able to kick it up to 5x with the newer tablet. So you're going to be playing the games at pretty much the same resolution, regardless of which way you go. And the last thing I wanted to test out here was some game streaming. So I currently have the Y700 connected through Steam Link to my PC here at home, and I'm running RetroBat, emulating the original Nintendo Entertainment System. And this is a really good test, I feel like, to get an idea of the latency and reaction and everything. And right now I'm playing Super Mario Bros. 3, and I'm really not having a problem with it at all. Yes, there is a little bit of a lag, if you will, but not enough that it's affecting my gameplay. I'm not even that good at this game, but I'm not having any problem flying through this first level. So if you're looking to do some game streaming from your device at home, whether that's Steam Link or your PlayStation or Xbox, as long as you have a good connection, you should be just fine. Now, I also tried this out with the 2025 version and was getting pretty decent results. No real significant difference there. So even though my download speed was slower with the 2025 version, it didn't appear to be affecting my gameplay at all. So not a lot of differences when it comes to gameplay on the 2023 Y700 and the 2025 version. Let's go ahead and jump back to the main cam here and wrap this whole thing up. So, is it worth upgrading to the 2025 Lenovo Legion Y700, or should you save yourself a few bucks and stick with the 2023 version? Well, of course, that answer is going to be entirely up to you, but what I can tell you is that the biggest difference between the two in favor of the 2025 model is the synthetic benchmarks. You can't deny that those numbers were definitely bigger, but when it came down to actual gameplay and performance, the difference just really wasn't there. Yes, the 2025 version is without a doubt going to be a bit more powerful than the 2023, but it has that one crippling flaw, which is that it doesn't have an SD card slot. So for me and my personal needs, I'm gonna save 150 to 200 bucks and stick with the 2023 model. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you stick with the 2023 version, or would you upgrade despite the fact that the 2025 version does not have an SD card slot? Maybe that's not important to you. Whatever you think, let me know in the comments below. And if you wanna check out either of these, I'll be sure to link to the best deals that I've found on AliExpress for both of them. If you have any questions about either of these tablets, let me know in the comments. And if there's any other videos like this that you wanna see, drop down in there and let me know. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time in the spare tech room. Be good.